Dog fans, what was that on Saturday? Georgia on a struggle bus win 13-12 over Kentucky. Got a great return guest, Seth Saunders from the Saturday in Athens podcast. We discuss what Georgia needs to work on the bye week, heading up to the huge matchup on the road at Alabama. We also discuss Kirby Smart, 1-5 all time against Alabama. Is it an Alabama issue or is it a Nick Saban issue and why he can't get over the hump? Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. That really helps out. Got another great return guest. I'll call him the OG guest. He's been coming on the last couple of years. Seth Saunders for the Saturday in Athens podcast. Always great to have him on. How are we doing today, Seth?
Doing great, Trey. Good to see you, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, first off, I wanted to see, how did the event go? What was it, the barbecue place?
Yeah. Sweet Auburn Barbecue in Atlanta. Yeah, it was great. Howard and Anita and Ron Sue were so kind to invite us to come. And if you're in Atlanta, man, and you're looking for some good food and you have not gone or aren't going to Sweet Auburn Barbecue, you got to do it, man. I mean, it's out of bounds. Food there was outstanding. It was a great time. Good to be around Dawgs fans, especially in a, let's just say a little bit of a stressful situation. So it's good to have some moral support when that's going on, I feel like.
It's great that you guys are able to do that. So, yeah, hopefully you'll have future events.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're hoping so too.
Jumping right into it, Georgia struggle bus win 13-12 on the road at Lexington. It seems like every time they go up there, it's a struggle. So I wanted to ask what went wrong, and where do we go from here? Got the big time matchup with Alabama on the horizon.
Yeah, weird night Saturday, right? I mean, I think we talked about this a bunch in our preview show on Saturday night. It was my impression and my co-host's impression that the Dawgs were just going to kind of blow them out. I mean, it just felt like Kentucky was going to be outmatched in every way, shape, and form. And look, brother, the Dawgs came out and kind of looked like they never got off the bus. And give credit to Kentucky too with that. I mean, I don't want to discount that, but they were ready to go. Night game, hostile environment. Dawgs always seem to have issues at Commonwealth Stadium. I think the last 3 times they've been there, including Saturday night, they scored under 20 points, which obviously very uncharacteristic. So I don't know what it is about that place. It gives them problems. Coach Smart is always talking about going on the road and getting an SEC win on the road is one of the most difficult things to do in college football. I certainly don't disagree with that, but I think everybody knows and everybody can see that Kentucky team, they're going to struggle all year because that offense is just not super dynamic. But I thought they did a nice job on both sides of the ball, controlling the line of scrimmage. And especially given how their offensive line had looked against South Carolina the week before, they did a nice job. I mean, look, that was the type of game Kentucky wanted to play. They shortened the game. They ran the ball, I think, 45 times on Saturday night. Dawgs' issue was they were horrible on third down on offense, so couldn't stay on the field. And then they were really, really bad on third down on defense, so couldn't get off the field. So I think time of possession for Kentucky was like 11 minutes more than the Dawgs. It's just the type of game that Kentucky wanted to play. And unfortunately, the Dawgs kind of fed right into it. And I think there are segmented issues kind of with each unit as it pertains to all that. But, just not a great night. But the end story in that is they won the football game. And I think if you watched it with your own 2 eyes, probably a game they shouldn't have won to be serious. So I think they should feel good about the grit that it took to get there, to put the win on the board, and then put themselves in a position to be undefeated going into Tuscaloosa, obviously for a monster matchup on the 28th.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate all that analysis. Great breakdown. I agree with a lot of that. I just sit back and be Monday afternoon quarterback here. But I guess I'll be a little critical of maybe Mike Bobo. I don't want to go there, but he didn't have they just seemed like I said, couldn't get off the bus. Receivers couldn't get separation, getting beat in the trenches. And then I think we need to pump the brakes on maybe the Carson back for the Heisman talk. We just want him to progress as he gets better. but just looking at the numbers, 15 and 24 to 160. I think this is the third game of the year. Well, two out of three, I guess, without scoring in the first half, a touchdown. Can't do that going forward with Tennessee, Ole Miss, Texas, of course, Alabama. They did show grit and determination of actually getting the win. At the end of the day, you are 3-0, but got a lot of work in the next 2 weeks. Tate Ratledge update I heard earlier is looking like it's going to be 6 weeks or longer for that sprained knee, sprained ankle. So that's a blow. Got Michael Morris coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of hand wringing going on. Maybe I'm sounding a little Larry Munson here today, but
you got just the right person on, Trey, because I'm the ultimate optimist when it comes to this. My co-host James will tell you that. Yeah, look, here's my thing with it, right? A college football season, and we've said this for a long time. It's why I've always been an advocate for the playoff. College football season is a living, breathing creature, and each team is constantly developing, constantly figuring out who they are. Right. And if you really look at it thus far, Dawgs played one game against a FBS opponent before they played Kentucky on the road. And so you got a group that played a neutral site game in Atlanta, which in a lot of ways is like a home game. And then you play a home game against Tennessee Tech, which is, look, it's a glorified scrimmage. So you're getting, getting embarrassed on their home field the week before. So I think they had a lot to prove. And obviously we're very motivated. Coach Stoops, Coach Smart, good friends. So I think there's certainly some rivalry in that. You always want to beat your brother more than you want to beat anybody else. So I think there's a part of that. I will say this. I want to talk about this because this is one of the narratives that's been out there since really halftime Saturday night. Everybody said, this is starting to feel like the Missouri game in 2022. I was thinking that as well. But, I went back and looked at the breakdown of that Mizzou game in 2022 in Columbia. And I will say the differences for me was the Dogs still put up almost 500 yards of offense that night. And Stetson had a big night, threw for over 300 yards. They had a couple turnovers that hurt them. And then they had problems stopping Mizzou, which wasn't really the problem on Saturday night. What's a little concerning to me, to your point, is the offense has not figured out who they are yet. And I don't think that's abnormal. But David Pollack tweeted out something on Saturday night that I found quite interesting, saying that when he looks at Georgia's offense, he sees a lot of really good and not a lot of great. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's an unfair characterization of it. If we're talking about what the Georgia offense was last year, it was Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, if we're talking about passing game. And then it was Dejon Edwards and Kendall Milton at the running back position. And I talked to my co-host about this on the way home Saturday night. I said, I think if nothing else, maybe some people will start putting respect on Dejon Edwards' name for what he was from a continuity perspective, from a knowing what you can expect each game, getting yards, getting north-south, being good between the tackles, having the ability to go out. And look, there was no continuity from last year to this year in the running back room, really. If you're talking about returning production. And even in that wide receiver room, although I feel that's a very talented room, who's the alpha? Who is the guy that when it's 3rd and 12 and you're down 6 points, you feel like we're going to throw it to him and we're getting a first down? It was obviously Brock last year. Mm-hmm. And everybody in the stadium knew it. And I think in a lot of ways, and look, man, Ladd too. Ladd was excellent. A great route runner, just an excellent, excellent player. He's showing that now with the Chargers. And so if you're Carson Beck as the quarterback, that's two enormous weapons, two enormous safety blankets that you now don't have. And so I think part of this progression as we go through the season is trying to figure out who on the outside is going to become the guy that when the Dogs need a play is going to be that. Maybe it's Dylan Bell. Maybe it's Dom Lovett. Dom had a couple big catches Saturday night. Look, that throw to Dom in the 4th on the Dogs' last offensive drive is a monster throw and catch. Monster. So I think you got to take little things like that and try to build off it. But they got a lot to work on. I think the other piece of it is, the cat from Stanford, the transfer, his name Ben Yurchek. Tough night Saturday night. And I'm not talking about pass catching. It's just he missed some blocks where it essentially blew up an entire drive. Yeah. And it can't happen. So they got some things they had to clean up, man. I mean, you talked about Tate being out. I'm not super uncomfortable with Micah having those reps. I think my general concern is they looked this way in the first half when Clemson wasn't gassed, and they certainly looked this way the entire game Friday or Saturday night. That offensive line is not establishing things at the point of attack right now. They're just not. I mean, I know everybody was talking about, look, they're going to be Joe Moore contenders, and everybody and their mama was talking about how great that offensive line was going to be. Well, look, 3 games in, we ain't seen it yet. That's just reality.
Right.
And that has got to change for them to go where they want to go.
Yeah, completely agree. So I was looking at the college football stats. So Georgia's ranked 60. I know it's 3 games, 61st in scoring offense. That's not going to get it done. I think they're top 5, top 6. The defense is there. You can tell. Going to get some guys back, but I think the O-line's overrated. Carson Beck, that's probably one of his worst performances. I mean, 160 yards passing. Where's the tight ends too? I mean, Oscar Delp, 2 catches for 12 yards. Urasek missing blocks. Lawson Lucky, he was in the game. I think we hate to beat the dead horse, like you said. We're missing that Brock, missing Ladd, and you don't have that alpha. Completely agree. You hit the nail on the head. Dom can get there, I think, but got to get some more maybe deep passes or whatever, or lob passes to like Kobe Young. Arian Smith. They're still trying to get it to him. So we got a lot of good dudes, like you said. It's not a great receiver to go to.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up Kobe Young. He's an interesting one for me. I think body type wise, he fits what they want to do and fits the prototype. And look, more of what they had in certain guys, whether it was Lawrence Cager, also as a transfer from Miami, or whether it's, whoever it may be during the Jake Fromm era, that big outside receiver that can be a possession guy, possibly get something deep. I think they've got to try and involve him more. I feel more comfortable having him maybe at the X or the Z. I think the way they've done it now is, in some ways, they've gone small with the wide receiver sets, because you've been seeing Dom get a lot of run, Dylan Bell get a lot of run. Arian Smith's been very involved, which if you listen to our show, I'm certainly thrilled about that. I love Arian. But body type-wise, different than, say, a big, possession, I'm going to go and get it on the fade inside the red zone type threat, So I think that's something to watch. I would love to see Colby evolve into that. I think one of the interesting things too with Georgia's system and Georgia's offense, and generally how their roster construction is with the transfer portal era, is it's not like a plug and play. I mean, Kirby talks a bunch, especially when the freshmen get on campus, about, look, if we can get them in that spring before we go into fall practice, that's huge, because they want to get these guys reps and get them comfortable. And so you wonder how quickly Colby's picked up the full offense, how quickly London Humphreys has picked up the full offense, all those type things. So, yeah, that's something to watch. Lawson Lucky, we were surprised about that. That's who James, my co-host, had picked Saturday as somebody to watch in the game Saturday night, and just didn't see it happen. I think he has a lot of potential to be a matchup nightmare for different defenses. And so defense just gonna be a work in progress. I mean, offense gonna be a work in progress. I just think they just don't know who they are yet. They have got to find their identity and find the things that they can lean on and feel comfortable doing. And it's obviously not there yet.
Yeah, one last thing on the Georgia-Kentucky. Got to clean up those penalties. 9 penalties for 85 yards. I know a lot of people are getting mad about the rest. I know that Jalen Walker late hit. I mean,
yeah, that was tough.
That's a tough one. But anyway, Kirby said, I think they're a lot higher number of penalties across college football. He mentioned that in the post game, so that might be a thing. Yeah,
look, that I'm generally not one to complain about officiating, but I don't know on what planet Jalen's play was a roughing the passer. I don't know what else you're supposed to do. I mean, that's a perfect play. Great pursuit. He's right there. He's hitting Brock as Brock releases the ball. What else are you supposed to do, man? That one was bananas. But other than that, look, they're going to miss some calls. They're going to make some calls. It's just one of those things. But yeah, I think that they got a lot of things to clean up. I will say, on the positive side of the ledger, like I said, I'm going to be an optimist here. They've done a great job protecting the football. No turnovers through 3 games. So if they can keep doing that, and they created a turnover on defense. So if we stay plus in the turnover game, you got to feel really good about that. That's obviously you're not giving away possessions. I thought obviously the offense wastes the turnover a little bit because you get it deep and then they couldn't do anything with it. But hey, again, you're scratching and clawing. Win's a win. I think you got to kind of take that and say, look, we got plenty to clean up. The other piece of it is, I can tell you someone who's not unhappy about how things went Saturday night, and that's Kirby Smart, because now he's getting 2 straight weeks to tell them, y'all thought you were the greatest thing since sliced bread because the world's been crowning you, and now you saw y'all ain't it yet. So we need to figure some things out. And so, look, man, 2 weeks for them boys to get ready for the Tide in Tuscaloosa. Let's just say I'm gonna keep the faith.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I completely agree with all that. And after that stressful Kentucky win, I think every Georgia fan would need VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. Great for tailgate. Drank some of these for the Clemson game a couple weeks ago. My personal favorite is the watermelon for 20% off. Dawg House 20. Again, that's 20% off. Dawg House 20. Check them out on VivaTequilaSeltzer.com and Instagram. So we got big, huge matchups going to be game day. The world will be watching Georgia versus goes on the road against Alabama. Kirby Smart 1-5. Feel like this is kryptonite, but no Nick Saban this year, and you got 2 weeks to prepare. So leading up to this game, what are you kind of looking at heading into Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I kind of harken back to the SEC title game and what gave Georgia problems then. And I think we would all agree that they had problems defensively with Jalen Milroe extending plays and working off schedule. And then Isaiah Bond gave him big problems. Good news here. Isaiah Bond not there anymore. So that's outstanding. However, they did replace him with the child prodigy. What's the cat's name? Ryan Williams, 17 years old, and just electric. So they're going to figure out a solution for him. The Jalen thing, though, I feel a lot better about. And I feel a lot better about it because of this. Last year, you have no pop there, so you're lacking experience at the linebacker position. There were a couple busts in coverage by C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson. You have to feel better about where that linebacker room sits going into Tuscaloosa than it did going into Atlanta last year for the SEC title game. So I have been very vocal before the season and as we've started that C.J. Allen is going to put his name in everyone's mouths all across America because he's going to be that good. And I think as the season progresses, he'll continue in that role. Look, man, Raylan has looked great. He's looked so fast. I think sideline to sideline, that defense is just so much faster than they were last year. And so because of that, I think it really eliminates the ability for them to get beat on the edge. Now, look, they lost contain a couple times Saturday night and Kentucky got outside. But I just think going into Tuscaloosa, they're going to have a really, really good game plan for that Alabama offense. And I think that it's going to be one of these things where, and look, hopefully Mike Hill's healthy, because I think if you put him out there and you put Jalen out there and everything that they've been able to do along the defensive line this year, which I've been very happy with thus far. And then, God, the inside linebackers have been outstanding. And KJ Bolden, Malachi Starks, there's been a lot of good play. Julian Humphreys had a magnificent play in the defensive backfield Saturday night. I have been happy with Dalen Everett's progression. So I like how this defense looks. And at the end of the day, defense travels. So when you go on the road, you got to be able to punch the other team in the mouth and kind of take the air out of the stadium a little bit and not let Bryant Denny be the 12th man. And so I think that's a big piece of it. That's the other thing we really haven't talked about, Trey, is we're through 3 weeks. Defense hadn't given up a touchdown.
That's right.
So look, at this point, this is Georgia's identity. They have a magnificent defense. They kind of got to lean on that group right now and not make mistakes to then give the other team an opportunity to get cheap touchdowns. I think that's how they're constructed as it currently stands. Because to your point, you even go back to the Clemson game, offense did not look great in the first half. I think what turned the tide in the second half is Clemson got tired. And Georgia kind of asserted their will and then took the ball game over. But look, man, that game, in all honesty, for 3 quarters was by no means comfortable. So, yeah, they got to clean those things up. And I think for right now, they got to put a stake in the ground and tether themselves to that defensive unit.
Yeah, mindset wise, Kirby's going to be on that microphone. He's got 13 days to get on them boys. Also heard on Twitter, I don't know if it was a rumor. I heard they might have had a Sunday morning spirited practice. I don't know how true that is. Just
love it.
So I don't think. I mean, everybody thinks the bye week, but I think they're going to be getting after it fundamental style, working on everything. He's going to be yelling at them. Plus another thing with the mindset, I think they wouldn't admit it, but maybe got a little cocky, maybe going in against Kentucky, like, man, South Carolina just smoke them boys. So I think that, but Kirby will get them up. I'm worried about it in the trenches because that's where Alabama whipped them last year in the SEC championship game. Got to clean all that up. One other storyline I wanted to ask because they're going to bring it up. So Kirby 1-5, we know the struggles they've had. Do you think it's a struggle against Alabama or Nick Saban, and then Kalen DeBoer throwing him in the equation? How do you see that matchup?
I think it's 100% a struggle against Nick Saban. I mean, look, everybody's struggling against Nick. I don't think it's any different for Kirby. I mean, Nick's the GOAT. And we have long been proponents on our show that, you know, love him or hate him, and Georgia fan or Alabama fan, you got to respect what he did on that sideline for all those years. I mean, he is a savant. And I think, too, he's a great teacher, not just at the game, but kind of the mindset to be excellent. And look, Georgia fans are benefiting from that because Kirby is instilling those things and has instilled those things in the Georgia program, whether it's, you know, win, what's important now, or control the controllables, or, you know, all the different things that they're about: composure, resiliency, toughness, all these things. Like, the culture is good because of Kirby's background and what he saw get built. And so I think that's something to watch for sure. I've said this, and this may be stupid, and there may be no merit to this, man, but Kirby loves Nick, and it's very obvious, right? And I think loves him in almost like a paternal way. Like, he was such a mentor, somebody that Kirby was with a long time. And man, I think when it's that way, it's one of Kirby's attributes is he is so fierce and competitive and just wants to put the stake in you. And you listen when they go play Florida or whoever it may be, and the fire is just, you know, unkempt. But I say all this because, like, you see him when he's with Nick, and he just looks softer. And when you heard him talk before the game at the SEC title game, it's just he has a reverence for him. And I think he should. I don't think that's misplaced. But look, that's just a piece of it that you don't have to worry about anymore. It's not going to be there. And so I think that and look, let's also put out, Kirby ain't the only former assistant that Nick had their number on. So he wasn't the only one. And so I know that's out there, and it's real, and it should be real. But the flip side of it is it's a brand new year, and it's a brand new program because Alabama's under new leadership. And look, I know they beat the pants off Wisconsin, but Kalen DeBoer and Alabama's team are unproven in a lot of ways too, because that Wisconsin team ain't it. That ain't your mama's Wisconsin. So that's not a physical football team anymore. So, like, that's not something that I think is comparable to the SEC game. They're going to get all they want from the Dogs come the 28th. So I'm not super worried about that. I do think it's a little interesting that, you know, Michael Penix under Kalen DeBoer at Washington, I wouldn't say was super off schedule. That was a very precise, pass-oriented offense that he executed at a super high level. And so will Jalen be able to do that against the Georgia defense? We'll see. I mean, we will see. He did not look outstanding against South Florida. I mean, I think everybody knows that. So I don't know, man. I feel great if 11 and 13 are playing in a ball game and coming off the edge trying to get after them. So that's kind of where I sit with it.
Yeah. One other question I did want to say is, would they go there and just using your research? Does Kirby give Nick a call because he knows his team better? And did they have a behind the scenes question? I was talking about my mom. That's a great point. Worst thing you'll hear is no, because he's still committed or loyal to Alabama. But anyway, was there maybe how would you stop Jalen Miller? What kind of let's just say some defensive conversation with Nick.
Oh man, I think it'd be a hard stonewall from Coach Saban. I mean, really, I think he's still an advisor for the program. So
Okay. Right.
I don't know that he's still got an office at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't know that that he, even if he wanted to, he would be able to do that just from I don't know, maybe the unspoken ethical code of football coaches. But no, I don't think he would. And I don't think Kirby would ask, to be honest. I think it's one of these things where, although he did say that Nick texts him a whole lot more now that he's not coaching anymore. So I think Coach Saban is loving retirement. He's been outstanding on game day. But yeah, I don't know. In some ways too, it's kind of apples to oranges, because Kalen DeBoer's Alabama offense is not what Nick Saban's offenses were. And I mean, look, I know Coach Saban had O coordinators and all those things, but it's just different. And one of the things I'm a little fascinated about with this Alabama team is normally they have a quasi bell cow at the running back position that you are plotting for and game planning for, and had that guy pretty much for Coach Saban's entire tenure there. And I mean, if you name it off the top of your head, who's that for them right now? Who's the guy they're going to give it to 20, 25 times and you're going, oh boy, he can't beat us? I don't know. I mean, who is their Derrick Henry? Who is their TJ Yeldon? Who is their Trent Richardson? Who's that guy right now? I don't know that they have that.
Yeah, the Miller kid, looking at the stats, he's got 29 carries for 265, but they played 3 games. So completely agree. They don't really have the alpha running back. I think it's Milroy. All around him, you can't. It's gonna be hard to stop him, but if you contain him, Georgia gets a shot. It's gonna be the trenches. Stop Milroy, and got to win in the trenches.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jalen beat him with his feet last year, and I don't necessarily mean running and scrambling. I just mean he extended plays and made things happen, and they have got to prevent him from doing that. That has been the problem when they play Alabama. It was the problem with Tua. It was the problem when Tua got hurt and Jalen Hurts came in. I mean, that has always been the bugaboo for the Georgia defense against Alabama, is the extension of plays and not being able to kind of finish off the quarterback. That was the difference in the national title game. If you look back, second half, they had great contain. They were bottled up. So, Bryce Young just didn't have a lot of wiggle. So it's not a secret. They just got to do it.
Yeah. We'll see. Huge matchup coming up. Early line, I looked around this morning. I see Georgia on some different casinos, -3.5, -4. So I was kind of surprised.
Ooh, so that's really surprising, because neutral field, that's essentially like a touchdown. So
even though ESPN prediction indicators got 66.9% for Bama, so early.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, think back to what was it? 2020. It was the COVID year. It was the last time they were there at night. Stetson was at quarterback. Dawgs pretty much dominated that first half. Right. But Alabama under Nick Saban did what it does, kept it close, scored late in that first half, and then obviously came out the second half, and it was a wide receiver show all night. But look, man, they got an opportunity, and here's the blessing too about the Kentucky game. They got an SEC road game under the lights in a hostile environment under the belt, and regardless of how ugly the outcome was, they now have that experience. So, because imagine the flip. Imagine if they'd had another home game last weekend. You go into the bye, and then Bryant-Denny is your team's first exposure to a road environment. I would have felt a lot less settled if that's how things were setting up. But I feel good about them being ready. And look, man, here's the long and short of it too. 18 to 22-year-old kids, right?
That's right.
So week to week, I think the performance is so variable just because of that. And so even if they come out and look like world beaters one week, that may not be the case the next week. And kids are not immune, I feel like even more so in this social media era, to the noise, to people saying, y'all are great and they stink, and y'all can just put the uniform and the helmet on and they're going to roll over and die. And it ain't that way. And you got to go out and earn it. And so that will not be the case at Alabama. So that piece of it, we don't even have to worry about. It's just going to be, I think, execution and then making some big plays when those lights are real bright.
Oh, yeah. We will see. Huge matchup coming up. And really appreciate you coming on the show again, Seth. It's always a great pleasure. How do we follow you again on social media?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Trey, the big one for us now is YouTube. We're trying to create a lot more video content. So if you go to any of the bios in our different social accounts, that should take you right to our YouTube page to subscribe. Would love it if folks did that. If you're doing the more traditional podcast route and just listening to audio, like and subscribe on those platforms, and maybe most important, just tell people about us, tell people about our show, turn them on to us, because the more folks that know about it, we feel like we're putting out something that's cool and that people will like. So if we can just get them in the door, we'll feel good about it.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Here's their Instagram. They're growing there looks like over 12. I'm sorry, that's Twitter there. 1203. Man, you guys are really blowing up on Instagram, over 11,000. And then over 100. I know you're trying to build that on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe, build up that YouTube channel, and follow him. Seth's putting out great content. I always love how it goes back to the traditions of actually just like the Saturdays in Athens, talking about tailgates and Larry Munson-isms and just like the pure Georgia fan. I really appreciate that. Not a lot of content out there on that. So that's great.
I appreciate that, brother. We love the Dawgs history, whether it's football or university and all of it. And God, it's a great community and so fun to be a part of, and get to talk to folks about the Dawgs and folks like you that love it and have passion for it. So yeah, man, we're thrilled to come on and appreciate you having us.
Yeah, appreciate it, Seth. And if everybody's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, share Dawg House Podcast, and we'll have some great content. Probably have an Alabama guy on, content guy, next week. So check that out. Talk about the X's and O's. Yeah, really appreciate it, Seth. Thanks so much.
All right, Trey. We appreciate it, brother. Go Dawgs.
Thank you. Go Dawgs.